The Hale family weddings were legendary, lavish, overflowing with glamour, the kind of events magazines begged to photograph. Today was no different. Ivory roses formed archways over the garden aisles, crystal chandeliers hung from towering trees, and gold-rimmed chairs sparkled beneath the afternoon sun. The string quartet played soft, elegant notes that floated across the estate like they were carried on silk. Everything was perfect, everything except the baby. Ethan Hale shifted his 10-month-old son, Noah, higher against his shoulder as the ceremony began. Noah was usually quiet, curious, thoughtful, much like Ethan himself. But today, something about the noise, the strangers, the lights, or perhaps the unfamiliar tension in the air had him unusually restless. At first, it was only a small whine. Ethan hoped it would pass. It didn't. Noah's face scrunched. His lips trembled. His tiny fists clenched. Then the crying began. It wasn't soft. It wasn't brief. It was a full, sharp, escalating wail that sliced clean through the quiet ceremony. Guests turned. Heads snapped around. Whispering began immediately. Polished, judgmental whispers from people who had never, ever dealt with an unhappy baby. "Oh dear, someone should take him outside. Is that Ethan's child? I thought billionaires had nannies." Ethan heard every word. He always did. Being a CEO meant he noticed everything. Every shift in tone, every change in expression. But what he couldn't understand, couldn't accept, was how powerless he felt right now. He rocked Noah gently, murmuring, "It's okay, buddy. I'm right here. I've got you. Please just breathe." But Noah only cried louder. The officiant paused. The bride shot a look over her shoulder, one that wasn't subtle in the slightest. Ethan's chest tightened with embarrassment. He didn't blame Noah. Babies cried. That was life. But he wished, just this once, that he could calm his son the way other fathers seemed to do so effortlessly. He tried everything, bouncing, swaying, whispering, rubbing Noah's back, offering the little stuffed lion Noah loved so much. Nothing worked. Noah's cries rang through the elegant garden, echoing against rose arches and gold chairs. Ethan finally sighed, apologized quietly to the nearest guests, and stepped out of the aisle. His polished shoes clicked against the stone path as he hurried toward the back of the venue, trying not to look at the annoyed faces staring after him. "I'm sorry," he murmured again to Noah, a voice tight with frustration he hated himself for. "I know you're scared. I'm trying, little man. I really am." But Noah didn't care about his father's apologies. His wail only grew louder. Standing near the catering tables, Lena had been watching the scene unfold in slow, painful detail. She was invisible to guests, just another girl in a simple black uniform with an apron tied around her waist. Her hair was pulled back, her shoes worn, her eyes tired from balancing 3 jobs and caring for a sick mother. But even invisible people could feel sympathy. And right now, her heart ached for the man whose life seemed far too immaculate to be crumbling in his arms. She had noticed him earlier, carrying the baby with a careful, protective strength. He was handsome in a quiet, composed way. The kind of man who rarely let emotion slip past his polished exterior. The billionaire CEO of Hale Technologies. Everyone knew the name. Everyone whispered about his tragedy. His wife had died shortly after giving birth, and since then, Ethan never hired a nanny longer than a week. No one knew why, but Lena saw it now. The reason, maybe, he didn't trust easily, and he tried too hard to do everything himself. No wonder he looked like he might break. Noah's cries continued, almost desperate now, small chest heaving, face red and scrunched in discomfort. Ethan bounced him again, but his motions were stiff. He was trying so hard he was making it worse. Lena's feet moved before her mind gave permission. She stepped out from behind the catering table, smoothing her apron with trembling fingers. Ethan looked up, startled, when he realized someone was approaching him. He looked exhausted, frustrated, embarrassed, and beneath all that, vulnerable, something Lena doubted he ever let anyone see. I'm sorry," she said softly, keeping her voice low so she wouldn't draw attention. "May I try?" Ethan blinked. Once, twice. Confusion tightened his brow. "You want to hold him?" His tone wasn't rude, just shocked. Yes, she whispered, if you're okay with it. No one had asked him gently like that in a long time. No one had offered help without judgment or agenda. For a moment, Ethan hesitated. He didn't know her. He didn't even know her name. She was just a catering worker. But Noah's cries were growing more frantic, and Ethan's heart felt like it was tearing in two. He exhaled shakily. Okay. He carefully handed Noah to her. The moment Lena took him, something changed. Her arms curved naturally around his tiny body, supporting him in all the right places. She placed his head against her shoulder and began swaying in a slow, rhythmic motion. Her voice came out soft and soothing, humming a lullaby that seemed older than memory. Noah hiccuped, paused, whimpered. Then silence. Real silence. The kind that felt like a miracle. Noah's little fingers curled into the fabric of her uniform as he buried his face in her shoulder and breathed in deeply, finally calming. Ethan stared, stunned into stillness. How did you do that? He whispered. Lena smiled, shy but warm. Babies feel stress. They felt yours. They feel mine. But sometimes they need someone calm. Someone steady. You think I'm not calm? He asked, just a bit defensive. No, she said gently. I think you're overwhelmed. And that's okay. Ethan swallowed, emotions tight in his throat. She tried to hand Noah back, but he clung tighter, letting out a small, unhappy sound. Lena laughed softly. I think he likes me. Ethan watched the two of them, watched his son relax for the first time all day, and something inside him shifted. A warmth, a pull, a strange, unexpected sense of hope. Before he could thank her, Lena's supervisor appeared and snapped. Lena, you're not paid to mingle with guests. Ethan bristled immediately. She was helping me. The supervisor froze. Mr. Hale, of course I didn't. It's fine, Ethan said, but his eyes softened again as they moved back to Lena. Thank you, he whispered. Not formal, not rehearsed, just real. Lena blushed faintly and nodded, tearing her eyes away before her heart betrayed her. She didn't belong in his world. She knew that. But Noah still held her dress with his tiny fist, and Ethan kept watching her walk away, as if something had begun that none of them yet understood. For the rest of the ceremony, Ethan stayed near the back of the venue, unsure whether to sit or stand, unsure of anything except one undeniable fact. He had just been rescued by a girl whose name he didn't even know. Lena moved through the crowd with practiced speed, carrying drinks on a silver tray, avoiding attention the way someone used to blending into the background did. But even from across the garden, Ethan's eyes kept finding her. He didn't mean to stare. He wasn't that type of man. Yet something about her made it impossible not to. Maybe it was the way Noah had relaxed in her arms after an hour of inconsolable crying. Maybe it was the gentleness in her voice. Maybe it was the fact that no one else had stepped forward. Not family, not friends, not his wealthy relatives who were always eager to offer business advice, but knew nothing about compassion. Only her, the girl in the simple black uniform. Noah stirred in his stroller, eyes fluttering open. Ethan tensed slightly, already anticipating another breakdown. But the moment Noah's gaze drifted toward the crowd and landed on Lena passing by, something astonishing happened. He smiled, a real, full-cheeked, dimple on one side smile. Ethan blinked, stunned. You're kidding me, he whispered. Noah reached his arms toward her even from a distance, making a soft babble Ethan hadn't heard all day. Something like no. It wasn't a word. Not really. But it was close enough to make Ethan feel a strange twist inside his chest. When Lena turned with her tray, her eyes met Noah's first, then Ethan's. She paused, uncertainty flickering over her face, unsure if she should approach or pretend she didn't notice. Ethan gave a tiny nod. She walked toward them slowly, as if approaching a scared animal rather than a billionaire father and his baby. She crouched beside the stroller, her uniform sleeves brushing lightly against the grass. Hey, little one, she whispered. Feeling better now? Noah reached for her, opening and closing his fist with an urgent little grunt. Ethan let out a helpless breath. Has never reacted to someone like this. Ever. Lena's smile was small but warm. Babies know who feels safe. You're saying I'm not safe? Ethan asked lightly, trying to hide how deeply the comment stung. No, she said softly. You're stressed. He absorbs that. But he trusts you. That's why he cries harder. Because he knows you'll fight for him. Ethan stared at her for a moment, struck silent. Everyone in his world talked numbers, deals, strategies, power moves. No one talked like her. No one understood anything the way she clearly understood his child. He cleared his throat. You're good with him. She shrugged. I've taken care of lots of kids. Cousins, neighbors, volunteer centers, babies just like me for some reason. Maybe they know I never judge them. That last line hit Ethan harder than it should have. A waiter bumped into her from behind, sloshing champagne dangerously close to the tray in her hands. Lena, watch where you're standing, her supervisor snapped. Sorry, Lena murmured. Ethan's jaw tightened. He didn't like the tone. He didn't like how Lena immediately shrank, shoulders curling inward as if she expected blame by default. He didn't like that someone spoke to her that way at all. She was helping me, Ethan said firmly. The supervisor froze, color draining from her face. Of course, Mr. Hale. I didn't realize. It's fine, Ethan said coolly, but please be respectful. The woman nodded quickly and hurried off. Lena stood still, cheeks flushed, not from embarrassment, but something else, something like disbelief that someone had defended her. Maybe no one usually did. You didn't have to say anything, she murmured. Actually, I did, Ethan replied. You helped my son. And me. Her gaze softened. Anyone would have helped. No, he said quietly, they wouldn't. For a moment, the world felt oddly still. People laughed and mingled around them. Music drifted through the air. Champagne glasses clinked. But none of it mattered compared to the fragile, unexpected connection forming between them. But she suddenly stepped back, remembering her uniform, her place, her rules. I should get back to work, she whispered. Wait, Ethan said. She turned. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, unsure what he planned to say. He didn't know how to talk to strangers anymore. Not on a personal level. Not outside boardrooms and negotiations. He only knew he needed her help. Needed her calm. Needed whatever magic she possessed that made Noah feel safe. What's your name? He asked at last. Her brows lifted a little, surprised by the simple question. Lena. Just Lena. She laughed softly. It's enough. Ethan nodded slowly. I know, she said gently. Everyone does. He didn't feel proud hearing that. It only reminded him how far he was from normal life. How distant he was from people like her. How different their worlds were. But Noah didn't care about worlds. He reached toward her again with a high, insistent squeak. Lena's eyes softened. I'll come back after my next round, okay? Just keep him in the shade. He's a little red. Ethan blinked. Thank you. Of course, she said. And then she disappeared back into the crowd, carrying her tray once more, swallowed by gold decorations and expensive perfumes and whispered judgments. But Ethan's gaze followed her until she turned a corner. And Noah, watching her go, let out a tiny whine like he already missed her. Ethan exhaled a slow breath. Something unfamiliar stirred deep in his ribs. Uncertainty mixed with hope, fear tangled with curiosity. He had been going through life like a ghost for almost a year. Every day, predictable. Every night, the same lonely routine. No surprises. No change. No spark. But today, for the first time in months, he felt something. Not romantic. Not dramatic. Just alive. Lena returned 20 minutes later, as promised. Noah reached for her instantly. She stroked his hair with the gentleness of someone who had known him forever. I knew he was tired, she said. He just didn't feel safe enough to fall asleep. Then, without asking, she lifted Noah again, humming the same soft melody as before. Ethan watched in silence as Noah melted against her shoulder. The string quartet finished the ceremony. Guests rose. Applause filled the garden. People drifted toward the reception hall and champagne fountains. But Ethan stayed rooted where he stood, watching Lena with his son in her arms, watching how natural she was, how calm, how unpretentious, how real. When she handed Noah back, Ethan found himself saying quietly, I think he already trusts you. Lena gave a small, uncertain smile. I hope so. Little did she know, this tiny moment, this simple act of kindness, was the moment that would change everything. The sun dipped lower over the estate as the reception began, casting warm amber light over the decorated garden. The string quartet had switched to softer dinner music, and guests drifted from table to table, exchanging stories and compliments as servers carried trays of sparkling drinks. Lena kept her head down, weaving between guests with the quiet grace of someone used to going unnoticed. She balanced a heavy tray with practiced steadiness, offering polite smiles, collecting empty glasses, dodging impatient gestures from wealthy attendees who barely glanced at her face. But even as she worked, she couldn't ignore the feeling in her chest. The echo of the moment when Noah had settled in her arms, the softness of his eyelashes against her shoulder, the gentle warmth of his weight trusting her completely. She hadn't held a baby in months, not since her neighbor's toddler moved away, and she had forgotten how grounding it felt, how peaceful. But she pushed the thought aside. This was a job, nothing more. Across the garden, Ethan kept one eye on Noah and the other, involuntarily, on her. He wished he didn't. He wished he wasn't this aware of her movements. But there was something about Lena's presence that felt unexpectedly comforting. She was the first person in months who had seen him without the armor of CEO attached. She spoke to him like a human being, not a headline or a bank account. And Noah, well, Noah had made his preference very obvious. The baby squealed happily the moment he spotted her passing by again. Ethan followed his gaze and almost laughed under his breath. You really like her, huh? He murmured to his son. Noah stretched his arms out toward Lena, despite being halfway across the lawn. Ethan shook his head softly. I get it. She has that effect. As the supervisor barked instructions near the catering table, Lena hurried behind it to refill her tray. She was stacking empty glasses when a shadow fell across the counter. She looked up and froze. It was him, Ethan Hale, standing on her side of the event, feet planted firmly on the staff's turf, completely ignoring the startled looks from the catering team. He cleared his throat. I didn't mean to interrupt. Her pulse stumbled. Oh no, you're fine. Actually, he said, eyes flicking awkwardly to the tray in her hands. You look busy. I usually am, she replied with a small, teasing smile that surprised even her. She didn't normally tease strangers, especially not billionaires. But something about him didn't scare her. His wealth wasn't what she noticed. It was the softness in his eyes, the exhaustion behind his posture, and the way he shifted when no one needed him. It was human, all of it. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. I wanted to thank you. Properly. I'm not sure I did earlier. You did, she said, and I'm glad he feels better. He didn't just feel better, Ethan said gently. He felt safe. That means more than you know. Lena felt her chest warm, embarrassed, shy, and strangely proud all at once. Before she could respond, Noah let out an excited babble from his stroller and reached toward her again. Lena laughed softly. He really does recognize me. Trust me, Ethan said. He doesn't even like half my relatives. She bit her lip, trying not to laugh too loudly. I can't tell if that's good or bad. Both, Ethan admitted. Noah's arms waved more urgently. Can I? Lena asked, nodding toward the stroller. Ethan didn't hesitate this time. Please. She lifted Noah carefully, settling him on her hip. The way his body instantly relaxed made something melt in Ethan's chest. You're a natural, he said. Lena shook her head. I've just been around kids a lot. Well, Ethan said quietly, I'm grateful for that. For a moment, they stood close, closer than either expected. Close enough that Ethan noticed a small strand of hair slipping from her braid, and Lena noticed the faint shadows beneath his eyes, the kind that came from sleepless nights and silent grief. But neither spoke about those things. Some truths were too fragile to touch yet. Instead, Ethan asked, Do you need help carrying anything? Or maybe a break? A break. Lena blinked. During a Hale wedding? Impossible. Then I officially grant you permission, Ethan said softly. Come on. 2 minutes. That's all. She hesitated, looking back at the supervisor who was too busy scolding someone else to notice. And for once, she allowed herself a tiny rebellion. "Okay," she whispered. They stepped aside under a rose arch, out of direct view, where the music felt softer and the noise faded. Lena swayed gently with Noah, who rested his head on her shoulder like he'd known her forever. "He's really attached," Lena murmured. "And he's so sweet." "He is," Ethan said. "But he's been through a lot for someone so small." Lena didn't ask the painful questions she could have. She didn't pry about his wife. She didn't look at him with pity. Instead, she said softly, "He's lucky to have a dad who doesn't give up." Ethan swallowed hard. "Some days, I feel like I'm failing." "You're not," she said immediately. "You're trying. And that's everything." He looked away, blinking faster than usual. Because the truth was, he hadn't heard words like these in a long time. Not from friends, not from family, not from employees, but from a girl he barely knew. Somehow, her words meant more. Noah stirred, curling closer into her. Lena smiled down at him. "You just needed some love today, huh?" she whispered into his hair. Ethan felt something twist inside him. "It's strange," he said quietly. "He never lets strangers hold him. Ever." "Maybe I'm not a stranger to him," she replied softly. Ethan's breath caught at the simple sweetness of her words. Maybe she wasn't a stranger to him either. But before he could say anything else, his sister called from across the lawn. "Ethan, we're doing family photos." He closed his eyes briefly. "Of course." Lena gently handed Noah back. He fussed, grabbing her shirt with his tiny fist, unwilling to let go. She kissed the top of his head, a small, motherly gesture that surprised even her, and whispered, "You'll be okay. I'll be right here." Ethan watched that moment with an ache he didn't understand. He hadn't seen anyone kiss his son in months. "Thank you," he said again, voice softer now. I don't know how I would have managed without you today." "You would have," she said gently. "You always do." "No," he answered truthfully. "Not like this." She blushed again, stepping back to hide the warmth rising in her cheeks. And as Ethan walked away with Noah, the baby kept twisting to look over his father's shoulder, eyes searching the crowd for the girl who had turned his storms into peace. Lena watched them go, unaware that this small, heartwarming moment was only the beginning. The next morning arrived soft and pale, the sun pushing shyly through thin layers of clouds. For the first time in weeks, Adrian woke up without the weight of a sleepless night pressing against his skull. He blinked slowly as the memory returned. Ava had stayed late, feeding Noah, rocking him, soothing him until he drifted into such peaceful sleep that even the baby monitor stayed quiet. He sat on the edge of his bed, running a hand through his hair. No crying, no fussing, number 3 a.m. meltdowns. It felt unreal. Downstairs, the mansion was quiet except for the hum of the heating system and the muted clatter of morning staff preparing breakfast. Adrian walked toward the living room, expecting to find chaos or noise. Instead, he paused at the doorway. There, on the wide beige rug, sat Ava and Noah. The baby lay on his back, kicking gently at a soft toy elephant, while Ava clapped her hands softly, encouraging him. "Noah, look at you," she whispered. "You're so strong today. See? You can do it." Noah squealed, an actual squeal, a happy one, and kicked even harder. Adrian froze. His heart tightened, not with stress this time, but something warm. Something he wasn't used to. Something he hadn't felt since Noah's mother passed. Ava looked over her shoulder and gave him a gentle smile. "Oh, good morning, Mr. Blackwood." He woke up cheerful today. He blinked, startled. "Cheerful?" Ava laughed softly, brushing Noah's hair with feather-light fingers. "Yes." He woke up smiling. "I thought maybe he had a good night." Adrian swallowed. "That's unusual." Ava didn't tease him, didn't comment on how tired or clueless he looked. She simply nodded and continued playing with Noah. Her calmness felt like a blanket, steady, reassuring. "I'm making him practice holding toys," she explained. "It can help babies build confidence and emotional security." Adrian frowned. "Security?" Ava nodded. "Babies don't understand anything except comfort and discomfort. But they do understand people. They know when someone is patient with them. They know when someone listens." Her voice softened as Noah gripped her finger tightly. "And they bloom when they feel safe." Something in her words hit him deeply, too deeply. Had Noah not felt safe with him? Had he been too cold, too busy, too lost in grief? He pushed the thought away before it swallowed him. Ava smiled up at him again, unaware of the storm behind his eyes. Would you like to try holding him this morning? He's in a good mood. Adrian stiffened. He wasn't used to being asked. He wasn't used to touching his own son without fear he'd mess something up. But Noah looked so peaceful, so trusting, that he slowly nodded. Ava gently handed the baby over, guiding his arms, adjusting the baby's back, helping him hold Noah's tiny weight. There you go, she said quietly. He feels your heartbeat. Noah looked up at Adrian, eyes wide and curious. Then, miraculously, he giggled. Adrian froze completely. A laugh, a real baby laugh, directed at him. Ava watched his expression carefully and smiled. He likes you. Adrian swallowed hard. He's never laughed like that for me. Well, Ava said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Maybe he's just been waiting. The room felt warmer suddenly. Softer, like something long locked away was slowly opening. Later, they moved to the kitchen. Noah sat in his high chair, kicking happily while Ava prepared his oatmeal. Adrian stood nearby, watching, trying to understand how one poor girl who had met him by accident, could bring so much peace into his life in such little time. You're a natural, he said quietly. Ava blinked, clearly surprised. Me? Yes. Noah responds to you. He trusts you. She shook her head. I'm not special. I just understand what it feels like to want comfort. The softness in her voice told him she meant it personally. You grew up without comfort? He asked gently. Ava hesitated, her fingers pausing on the spoon. My father left. My mom worked too much. Most days it was just me. But that's why I try to be the person I needed when I was little. Adrian felt something shift in him. Respect, admiration, something deeper, something quiet and careful. You're remarkable, he said softly. Her cheeks flushed, and she quickly looked down. I'm just trying my best. Before he could respond, Noah let out a loud, babbling sound, demanding attention. Ava laughed and leaned close, feeding him tiny spoonfuls while he kicked in excitement. Adrian watched the two of them. How effortlessly she soothed him, how brightly Noah lit up when she smiled. It felt like watching sunlight fall into a room that had been dark for too long. By noon, the rain started. Gentle at first, then heavier, drumming against tall windows in steady rhythms. Adrian was seated in his office, but no matter how much work he tried to focus on, his mind drifted back to the living room. Finally, he gave up. He walked out, and there they were. Ava sitting on the floor again, Noah asleep with his head on her lap. She held a small children's book in her hand, reading softly even though he was already asleep. You stayed again, Adrian said quietly, leaning against the doorway. Ava looked up, startled. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to stay too long. He fell asleep on me, and I didn't want to wake him. You're not intruding, Adrian said. Actually, you make this house feel less empty. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Ava blinked, touched. I'm glad. Truly. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so it wouldn't disturb Noah. I know I said this yesterday, but I'll say it again. I don't know what I would have done without you. She shook her head gently. Anyone would have helped. No, he said softly. Not like you. Their eyes met, warm, hesitant, but undeniably connected. Outside, the rain softened into a delicate drizzle. Inside, it felt like something delicate was beginning. Something healing. Something neither of them fully understood yet, but both felt deeply. The next few days slipped by gently, like pages turning in a soft breeze. Nothing dramatic happened, yet everything felt different. The house was quieter. Noah cried less. Adrian found himself smiling more. And Ava, well, she was becoming the warmth he didn't know his home needed. On Thursday morning, the mansion smelled faintly of fresh bread and citrus cleaner as sunlight streamed through the tall windows. Adrian walked downstairs with an odd flutter in his chest, a strange anticipation he refused to name. He wasn't used to waking up wondering if someone would be there, if someone would smile at him, if someone would hold Noah the way she did. He wasn't used to looking forward to mornings. And yet he did. He found her in the same place he always did, the living room floor, Noah sitting proudly on her lap, giggling as she tapped his nose. "Boop," she said playfully. Noah erupted with laughter, so loud the chandelier seemed to vibrate with it. Adrian stopped in his tracks, watching. He didn't announce his presence. He didn't move. He just took in the sight. The girl who had stumbled into his life by accident and somehow rearranged it with nothing but gentleness. Ava noticed him eventually, her smile brightening. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwood." "No," he said almost too quickly. "Call me Adrian. You've earned that." She blinked, surprised. "Oh, all right. Good morning, Adrian." Something in his chest softened at the sound of his name on her lips. Noah reached up suddenly, tiny arms stretching toward Ava's face. She laughed and planted a soft kiss on the baby's forehead. "He's in a good mood again?" Adrian asked. "He's been in a good mood every morning lately," she said. Then she added, "He feels safe." Safe. The word was becoming a theme between them. A quiet reminder of what Noah had needed for so long, and what Ava effortlessly brought. After breakfast, the sky clouded over, thick and gray. A storm was coming. Wind pressed against the windows. The trees outside swayed violently. "Maybe you should head home early," Adrian said, glancing at the darkening sky. "It looks like it'll get bad later." Ava shook her head instantly. "I'm not leaving until Noah is settled after lunch. Besides, the wind isn't that bad yet." He frowned. "You always put him first." She looked at Noah, who was reaching for her hair with clumsy hands. I think he needs consistency, especially with everything he's been through." Adrian opened his mouth to say something, but a clap of thunder shook the room, startling Noah. His face crumpled. Tears welled. His breathing quickened. Ava scooped him up instantly. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here. Sure, you're okay." Her voice flowed like warm honey, spreading through the room. Noah clung to her shirt, burying his face in her shoulder as she rocked him gently. Thunder crashed again. This time, instead of screaming, Noah squeezed his eyes shut and pressed closer to her. Adrian watched in awe. He usually cries uncontrollably when storms come. Ava stroked Noah's back in soft circles, whispering soothing words. "That's because storms are loud. Babies don't understand lightning or thunder, but they understand heartbeat, warmth, presence." She glanced up at him. "He just needs to know he's not alone." Those words hit deeper than she probably intended. By lunchtime, the storm outside had grown fierce. Sheets of rain slammed against the windows like 1,000 tiny fists. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied again. "Maybe you really should head home," Adrian said, worry creeping into his voice. Ava bounced Noah gently. "With this storm? It wouldn't be safe. I'll wait until it settles a little." He nodded, relieved without admitting it. Together, they settled in the kitchen. Noah sat in his high chair, while Ava stirred a small bowl of mashed sweet potato. Rain hammered the roof, the wind howled. But inside the kitchen, it felt strangely peaceful. Adrian leaned against the counter, watching as she fed Noah tiny spoonfuls. "You know," he said slowly, "I'm beginning to think Noah likes you more than he likes me." Ava laughed softly. "That's not true. He loves you. Babies just show love differently." He looked down. "I wish I knew how to read him." "You're learning," she said, lifting her eyes to meet his. "And he already feels safe with you. I see it." The sincerity in her voice tightened something in his chest. When Noah finished eating, Ava cleaned him up and settled him into his blanket for a nap. The storm made him restless, so Ava sat close, humming softly while he drifted between sleep and wakefulness. Adrian sat on the armchair nearby, watching her in the dim afternoon light. "You are incredible with him." She shrugged, embarrassed. "It's not me. It's just patience." "No," he said quietly. "It is you." She looked away, cheeks warming. After a moment, she whispered, "You know, I never thought I'd be the kind of person who mattered in someone's life." "You matter to him," Adrian said. Then, softer, "and to me." Ava's breath caught, but before she could respond, the lights flickered again, this time going out completely. The house went silent. Noah stirred, a small whimper escaping him. Ava instantly rested her hand on his chest, soothing him back down. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're right here." Adrian stood. "I'll check the backup generator." But the moment he reached the door, Noah whimpered again. Ava lifted her head. "He's scared of the dark." Adrian paused. "Do you need me to stay here?" Ava nodded. "Yes. If he hears both of our voices, it might help." He sat back down, closer than he had been before. Their knees almost brushed. Their voices lowered to a gentle murmur as they whispered calming words to Noah, who slowly relaxed between them. Minutes passed. Thunder growled. Rain spat against the windows. The house stayed dark. But inside that room, with the baby sleeping between them, there was only warmth. A quiet bond. A shared tenderness. A moment neither of them dared disturb. Finally, Ava whispered, "See? He feels safe." Adrian looked at her, really looked at her, his voice barely audible. "So do I." She met his eyes, and for a second, something unspoken passed between them. Something fragile, something hopeful, something new. The storm raged outside, but inside, something much softer was beginning to grow. By the next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean and quiet. The sky was clear, the light tender and golden as it spilled into the mansion's halls. But despite the calm weather, something inside the house felt different. Softer, but also a little uncertain. Ava woke up early on the guest room sofa, still wrapped in the blanket Adrian had insisted she use when the power had gone out. She blinked slowly, replaying the night in her mind. The darkness, Noah's tiny whimpers, Adrian's voice close beside hers, their shared warmth as they soothed the baby together. And the moment he whispered, "So do I," she pressed a hand over her heart. He couldn't have meant it. Not like that. He's a CEO. I'm me. She stood quickly, trying to push the thought away. Downstairs, the mansion felt unusually still. Even the staff moved quietly, as if sensing a shift in the house's atmosphere. Ava found Noah awake in the living room, lying on his blanket, babbling up at the ceiling. "Good morning, sunshine," she whispered, kneeling beside him. Noah reached up instantly, his tiny hands grabbing her fingers. Ava's smile softened. "You're getting so brave," she murmured. "Storms don't scare you as much anymore." Adrian's voice came from behind her. "Because you make him feel safe." Ava turned, startled. He stood by the doorway, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy, as if he had barely slept. His expression was soft, almost hesitant. "Good morning," she said quietly. "Morning." He paused, eyes lingering on her face longer than usual. "Did you sleep well?" "Oh, yes. Thank you." The blanket helped. Adrian nodded, stepping closer. "I'm glad." Their eyes met for a moment too long. Ava felt her heartbeat jump and quickly looked away. Noah, sensing the silence, squealed for attention. Ava picked him up and kissed his cheek. "Hungry boy," she teased. Adrian smiled faintly. "He has good taste." Ava froze. Just a compliment. He meant it innocently, but her cheeks warmed anyway. During breakfast, Ava fed Noah oatmeal, while Adrian worked on his laptop from the dining table. The atmosphere was strangely gentle, with an awkward kind of awareness between them. Every time their eyes met, one of them looked away first. Every time their hands accidentally brushed while passing something, both pretended not to notice. And yet, despite the awkwardness, there was a quiet comfort in their closeness, an understanding that had formed naturally without being forced. At one point, Noah made a happy mess with his food, smearing oatmeal across his cheek. Ava laughed softly and wiped him clean. Adrian watched them, his gaze lingering on her hands. So steady, so patient. "You're amazing with him," he said again, almost to himself. Ava tensed slightly. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true," Adrian replied gently. She didn't respond. Instead, she continued feeding Noah, her heart thumping. After breakfast, Ava gathered her bag. "I should get going. The roads must be dry by now." Adrian felt the words hit harder than they should have. "Already?" he asked. "I've been here since yesterday. I don't want to overstay." "You could never overstay," he said too quickly. Ava's eyes darted down, her fingers tightening around her bag strap. "It's just, I don't work here," she whispered. I don't want people to think I'm taking advantage. You're not, he said firmly. But Ava took a small step back. Still, I should go. The distance she put between them was small, but it felt huge. He followed her to the entrance hall, Noah in his arms. The baby clung to Adrian's shirt, but kept reaching toward Ava, as if sensing she was leaving. Ava's heart squeezed painfully. I'll be back tomorrow if you need me, she said softly. Adrian hesitated. Ava, are you okay? Yes, she lied. You're being quieter today. I'm fine. He studied her for a long moment. Ava, if I said something yesterday. No, she said quickly. You didn't. I think I just need a little space. Adrian froze. The word cut him deeper than he expected. He swallowed. Did I do something wrong? No, she whispered. You've been nothing but kind. She didn't finish the sentence. How could she explain that she was afraid of getting attached, afraid of crossing lines she wasn't allowed to cross? She took Noah gently, kissed his forehead, and hugged him close. I'll see you soon, little guy. Noah whimpered, trying to keep hold of her shirt. Ava, Adrian said quietly, his voice tight. You don't have to go yet. But she stepped back. I have to. And before he could say anything else, she slipped out the door into the bright morning. The silence she left behind felt heavier than the storm. Noah began fussing. Reaching toward the door she had exited. Adrian tried rocking him, soothing him, whispering to him. But nothing helped. Come on, buddy, she'll be back. Noah cried harder. Adrian's chest tightened painfully. Not just because his son was upset, but because a part of him felt the same. He looked toward the door, jaw clenched. I shouldn't have let her leave, he muttered. Across town, Ava walked slowly, the breeze cool against her cheeks. She told herself she needed space. She told herself she was doing the right thing. She told herself a girl like her shouldn't get too close to a man like Adrian. But every step away from the mansion hurt more than she expected. I'm just being silly, she whispered. I'm nothing to him. Yet her heart whispered something else. Why does it feel like you're walking away from something important? She stopped suddenly, pressing a hand over her chest. Because deep down, she knew the truth. She wasn't stepping away from a job. She was stepping away from a family she was beginning to care about. Maybe too much. Back at the mansion, Adrian paced the living room, Noah finally asleep in his arms after crying himself tired. The baby's small fists were still clenched, as if he feared the world might take Ava from him. Adrian stroked Noah's back, whispering, She'll come back. She has to. He looked toward the door again, unable to shake the feeling that something delicate had been broken, and that if he didn't fix it soon, he might lose her before he ever got the chance to tell her what she was starting to mean to them. The next few days felt heavy, even though the skies had cleared and the sun shone warmly through the mansion windows. Adrian couldn't shake the quiet ache that had settled in his chest since Ava left that morning. Her absence lingered like a shadow in the corners of every room. Soft, persistent, impossible to ignore. Noah sensed it too. His laughter was lighter than usual, his curiosity more cautious, as though he knew something in the atmosphere had shifted. He clung to Adrian with tiny, desperate hands, his small face pressed into the folds of his father's shirt whenever anyone approached. Even the usual toys didn't distract him like they had before. Adrian sat on the couch one afternoon, Noah in his lap, watching the boys stack blocks with a single-minded determination. He had tried to distract himself with work, emails, and conference calls, but his mind kept drifting to Ava, her smile, her calm voice, the way she had coaxed Noah into trusting her completely. He remembered the small brush of her hand against his when she handed Noah back after the storm, the warmth in her presence, the quiet confidence that made the baby feel safe. He sighed, resting his forehead against the baby's soft hair. I miss her too, buddy, he whispered. Noah responded with a small whimper, as if understanding every word. Later that day, Adrian went to the nursery to check on Noah's nap. He noticed something out of place, a small folded blanket that didn't belong to the usual rotation. Picking it up, he recognized the faint scent of Ava's perfume. His heart skipped. She had been here. She had come back. But when? And why hadn't he seen her? He walked to the garden, scanning the lush greenery and polished fountains for any sign of her. There she was on the far terrace, kneeling by Noah's little outdoor play area. The baby giggled as she tickled his tummy, completely absorbed in her gentle care. Adrian's chest tightened. Every fiber of him wanted to walk over, to tell her she had nothing to apologize for, to ask why she had stepped away from him the morning before. But he stopped. He hesitated. A small, bitter voice inside his mind whispered, "She's not meant to be here. She's not part of this world. Let her go." And yet, every instinct told him to move closer. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the Hale mansion, casting warm gold across the living room. The house, which had once felt too quiet and too large, now seemed alive. Laughter floated through the halls, soft, musical, and genuine. Noah's giggles rang out like tiny bells, a sound Adrian had longed to hear every day. Ava sat cross-legged on the rug, a small picture book in her hands, while Noah leaned against her shoulder, eyes wide and captivated. Adrian stood nearby, sipping coffee, watching the two of them. The sight made his chest tighten in a way he hadn't expected, warm, protective, and overwhelmingly grateful. He remembered the first time Ava had walked into his life, almost by accident. The helpless cries at the wedding. The way she had calmed Noah with nothing more than a gentle voice and a soft touch. He had thought of her as a helper, a kind stranger. But in the days since, she had become so much more, an anchor, a friend, and maybe, quietly, something he couldn't yet name but already felt deeply. Again, Adrian asked with a teasing grin, seeing Noah point to the book. Ava laughed softly. "He wants the story one more time." Adrian set his cup down and sat on the floor beside them, careful not to crowd. Noah's tiny hand reached for his father, then for Ava, bridging the small gap between them. Adrian smiled, realizing how natural it felt to be here in this simple, tender moment. He had spent months trying to balance his life as a CEO and a single father, but somehow Ava had reminded him of the beauty in ordinary, loving care. Noah giggled, squirming happily. "Papa! Papa!" he exclaimed, pointing between Adrian and Ava. Adrian chuckled. "You're making me compete with her, huh?" Ava looked up, smiling warmly. "He loves both of us. That's all that matters." Adrian reached out, gently tickling Noah's belly. The baby's squeals of delight made Ava laugh, and in that shared sound, Adrian felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. The house was warm, safe, and filled with laughter. For the first time, it didn't feel lonely. Later that day, Adrian walked Ava to the garden terrace, Noah toddling beside her with tiny, unsteady steps. The sky was bright, the air crisp, and the flowers swayed gently in the breeze. Adrian stopped, taking a deep breath, feeling a strange nervousness he hadn't felt since before his son was born. "I want to thank you," he said quietly, turning to her. "For everything. For staying, for Noah, for just being here." Ava blushed, looking down. "You don't need to thank me. I care about him. And I care about you too." Adrian's eyes softened. He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You have no idea what that means to me. We've both been through so much, and yet you've brought light into this house, into my son's life, into mine." Ava's eyes glistened. "I never thought I'd feel like this, but I can't imagine not being here." Adrian took a step closer, heart pounding. "Then stay. Not just for him, not just for the house, stay for us." Noah looked up at them, giggling and reaching out with tiny hands. "Stay," he squealed. Ava laughed, letting herself lean into Adrian slightly. "I think I will." The sunlight caught her hair, the breeze ruffled their clothes, and in that moment, everything felt right. The quiet, the laughter, the love, it all fit perfectly like it had been waiting for them all along. The weeks that followed were filled with small, perfect moments. Breakfast together, walks in the garden, Noah learning new words and stumbling happily over them. Adrian watched as Ava read to him, played with him, and gently guided him through every small triumph. And with every day, he realized how much he relied on her presence, not just for Noah, but for himself. She made the house feel like home. She made life feel lighter. One evening, As the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Adrian and Ava stood on the terrace, holding Noah between them. The baby's tiny hands clutched both their fingers as they laughed together, a family bound by care, trust, and love. Adrian kissed the top of Noah's head and whispered, "We're lucky, you know, all of us." Ava nodded, her hand brushing his gently. "Yes, lucky." Noah squealed in agreement, clapping his tiny hands. Adrian looked at Ava, his heart full. "I know this is sudden, but I don't want to hide how I feel anymore. You've become the most important part of our lives. You make us better." Ava's eyes softened. "I feel the same way. I want to be here. Always." He smiled, relief and happiness washing over him. "Then let's make this our family. The three of us." Noah squealed again, bouncing slightly in their arms, as if giving his whole-hearted approval. From that day on, the Hale mansion was no longer quiet, no longer cold. Laughter and warmth filled every room. Adrian still had his work, but his heart had space for more than spreadsheets and meetings. Noah thrived in the love surrounding him, and Ava became not just a caretaker, but a mother figure, a friend, and a partner in life. Adrian often caught himself watching them. The way Ava would talk to Noah, the way Noah would look up at her with pure trust and love. And sometimes, when he felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities of his life, he would think back to the wedding day, the day his baby wouldn't stop crying until a kind, gentle girl stepped in. He smiled at the memory, realizing how much that one act had changed everything. Because it wasn't just Noah who had been saved that day. He had been saved too, from loneliness, from isolation, and from the quiet desperation of a life lived only half alive. Ava and Noah were both his anchors and his joy, and together they had become a real family, imperfect but whole. The sun set behind the mansion, casting long golden shadows across the garden. Adrian held Ava's hand, Noah tucked safely in her arms, and together they watched the horizon. The world felt full, warm, and safe. For the first time in a long time, everything was exactly as it should be. And in that quiet, perfect moment, Adrian whispered to himself, "We're home." He did. Ava looked up when she sensed someone behind her. Her face softened when she realized it was Adrian. I thought you might be busy," she said, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "I just wanted to check on him before I left." "Check on him," Adrian repeated, his voice quieter than he intended. "You were here yesterday. You came back after I said you could leave." She looked down at Noah, avoiding his gaze. I just wanted to make sure he was okay. I didn't want him to feel lonely." Adrian's chest constricted. "You think he's lonely without you?" His voice wavered. "Do you know how long I've tried to soothe him the way you do?" Ava's lips parted, then closed. I don't want to overstep." "You're not overstepping," he said firmly, stepping closer. You bring something here that I can't. And I can't. Noah can't. Ignore that." Ava's gaze lifted, wide and uncertain. "Adrian, don't call me that," he said gently, his tone softening. "Please, not now. Not when you've already done so much." They stood silently for a moment, the air between them thick with unspoken words. Noah wriggled happily in Ava's lap, sensing the tension, but also feeling the safety of both adults around him. His small hand reached for Adrian, then for Ava, as though bridging the distance his parents' unspoken thoughts had created. Ava's eyes glistened. "I didn't mean to make things complicated," she whispered. Adrian shook his head. "You didn't. If anything, you've made things better." Her lips curved into a faint, hesitant smile. "Better. Yes," he said softly, kneeling down to Noah's level. "Because now he feels safe. Because now I know I'm not alone in trying to raise him right. Because you matter. To him and to me." Ava blinked, tears threatening. She reached out, brushing a soft hand over Adrian's shoulder. "You really mean that?" "I do," he whispered. "Every word. And I don't want to hide it anymore." Noah clapped his tiny hands, squealing as if he understood the gravity of the moment. His laughter broke through the tension like sunlight, spilling over the terrace and lighting the two adults in warmth and hope. Ava leaned back slightly, catching her breath. I, I didn't expect this, she admitted. I thought I was just helping him. You've done more than help, Adrian said. You've changed him, changed me, made this house alive. Ava's hand lingered near Adrian's, unsure if she should reach out or retreat. The fear of crossing boundaries battled with the pull of connection she couldn't deny. She began softly. I care about him. And I care about you. Adrian's chest ached at the words. He didn't speak immediately, instead kneeling lower, letting Noah rest between them. I care too, he said quietly, voice thick. More than I thought I could. More than I ever allowed myself to feel. The afternoon light shifted, golden rays spilling across the terrace, illuminating their small circle. The baby between them. The storm finally passed, the world outside continuing, but seemingly distant. The three of them sat together in silence, a fragile yet undeniable bond forming, bridging the gap between loneliness and warmth. Ava finally whispered, I don't want to leave again. Adrian shook his head gently, holding Noah close. You don't have to. Not ever, if you don't want to. The baby yawned, stretching tiny arms, and then babbled, as if approving their words. The sound made both adults laugh softly, a shared joy that felt like a quiet promise for the days ahead. And in that moment, Adrian realized something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in months. The possibility of a real family. Not perfect, not flawless, but alive, warm, and heart-deep. Ava looked at him, searching his eyes. Do you really mean it? I do, he said, voice steady and true. You've already become part of our lives. And I hope you'll stay. She smiled, this time fully, letting herself relax. Noah clapped again, as if celebrating the quiet victory of trust, love, and connection. The terrace, the storm passed, and the golden afternoon light. It all felt like the beginning of something gentle, healing, and enduring.